President Trump lashed out at Charlamagne Tha God over the weekend for comments that he made on Lara Trump's Fox show.
Let's first listen to what Charlemagne had to say.
I think there's a political coup going on right now in the Republican Party that people aren't paying attention to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think that this Epstein thing is going to be a way for traditional conservatives to take their party back. I really do.
President Trump wasn't having it. He took to Truth Social and wrote, quote, "The very wonderful and talented Lara Trump, who shows a big rating success, put racist Charlamagne Tha God." Why is he allowed to use the word God when describing himself? Can anyone imagine the uproar there would be if I used that nickname? Trump giving himself great ideas. He's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I have done. Remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world, MAGA.
Lara Trump told Charlemagne she thinks things have changed and that she doesn't see so-called traditional Republicans coming back to the forefront. Charlemagne, however, said this line of thinking could be a trap. Let's watch.
Say what you want. Donald Trump is a once-in-a-lifetime, one-on-one political juggernaut. You're not going to be Donald Trump. So if you think you're going to be able to do what Donald Trump has done, talk the way Donald Trump has talked, get away with what Donald Trump has got away with, it's not going to happen. So everybody right now, we have the opportunity to have like a huge reset.
So, well, go ahead.
I was just the ideal role for Charlamagne Tha God from a conservative media standpoint is to have him focused on what's wrong with the Dems and beating them up. What you want your Charlamagne Tha God type figure to be hostile to the Democrats and not and kind of overlooking or forgetting or deprioritizing, because obviously he doesn't like or agree with Donald Trump's policies, but to be for left people to be focused on how much they dislike the Democratic Party is what Republicans want or conservatives want. So I'm not sure what prompted having him on the show, but right now there isn't even really the Democratic Party has no leader and is not a factor at all in our kind of discourse. So now is not the right time to be bringing out the Charlamagne Tha God into the conservative media environment, because the thing to weigh in on is what Trump is doing. If you're an online commentator type person like Charlamagne Tha God is, it's very Epstein focused, which is not a great story for Trump. So this was not the right booking. I mean, just from a narrow political self-interested calculus.
Well, and I think we can assume that self-interested calculus was at play, given it was Lara Trump actually conducting the interview, which makes the booking even odder. I mean, I'm somewhat amused that you're upset that Charlamagne Tha God isn't instigating enough democratic infighting for your liking. But look, I mean, the issue here about, well, there's two things. One is what he actually said, and the second part is Trump's reaction to it. On what he said, I think we both agree that the Epstein thing is a problem for Trump. I don't think it's a problem in quite the way Charlemagne is arguing, because I don't think that the traditional Republican Party is somehow going to sweep back and
because of that
and depose the MAGA people. I think the danger, in fact, for Trump is the propensity of the Epstein story to divide those MAGA people, and we have seen that certainly among online commentators, but more broadly on social media, a dissatisfaction from people who are usually very supportive of Trump about his actions regarding Epstein.
And Democrats right now are talking about releasing the Epstein files. Even if they're total hypocrites about it, it just makes the politics of this issue a little bit more confused for people, or for winnable, gettable, persuadable, in the middle type. In the middle is kind of not the right terminology for them, but you know what I mean. Joe Rogan type people, even again, Charlamagne Tha God type people, viewers of his show are not very enthusiastic about Democrats as a rule, or have not been. They're enthusiastic about Bernie Sanders, maybe other Democrats. Of a more progressive bent, but they're just not really enthusiastic about where the party is. So this is an issue now where the party is bringing themselves a little bit back into their good graces, and they're finding time for criticisms of Republicans. It's not what you want if you're Trump, if you're the Trump movement.
Well, what you also don't want if you're Trump is necessarily to be refocusing attention on this story, or finding ways to give a story that is damaging for you new legs. And that's what he has continually done on the Epstein stuff, bringing it up again and again. Now, in relation to the way he criticised Charlamagne Tha God, yes, parts of it were kind of amusing and Trumpy, and his musings about what if he called himself Donald the God, presumably, or Trump the God, and would there be outrage? Of course there would. That phrase that he gets so hung up on or uses so frequently about low IQ individuals, I wish he'd stop that. It's not, I agree, true that he uses it exclusively of non-white people, but he has used it a lot of non-white people: Maxine Waters, Kamala Harris, Al Green, various others. Now, he has described Mika Brzezinski that way, so it's not, I'm not saying it's solely racially coded, but I think it has a sort of distasteful undercurrent to it, and I don't think that's very sensible.
It also was some pretty harsh commentary from Trump on, if that's all he was reacting to, obviously we didn't see the entire interview, it wasn't that, he didn't insult Trump that much. It seemed disproportionate to what he actually said. He was upset about, the Epstein files and talked about some other things. I think it's good when, a more mainstream conservative place like Fox has a more interesting dissident left person on to talk through things. When they just have on a kind of moderate Democratic strategist who's trying to say why the Democratic Party is actually moderating, it maybe gives conservative viewers a not totally accurate perception of where the party is.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's also the Fox propensity to book people who I describe as people who play Democrats on Fox News, right? Sure. Which is somebody who was a Democratic pollster in the 1970s who's brought on to say how terrible the modern Democratic Party is. I don't particularly care for that either.
Right. So I think it's healthy when you have those conversations. I don't see, on his point that Trump is just a juggernaut and he's unique, and so when Trump is done, when he can't run anymore, what takes the place of it? I think that insight is correct. I think Trump is very unique. I think he's unprecedented in human history. I don't think the traditional, the Bush-era Republican Party is going to come back into power really at all. I think J.D. Vance very naturally inherits, and it could be the case that he won't be as politically successful as Trump. I think he has been set up to be reasonably politically successful. I think he very well could win a third term for Trump, as it were, in terms of running and winning and governing the way Trump has. Obviously, he comports himself somewhat differently, and he's still very combative with the media, but is not doesn't do the kind of real crass, more ugly, insulting kind of thing. He maintains a kind of an intellectualism to a greater degree as part of his persona, but while still being very crusading for the working class. I think it will be a Trump version or Trump policies with a somewhat different person presenting them, but it doesn't fundamentally reset the Republican Party back to where it was.
No, I agree that it doesn't fundamentally reset the party.
And it might not be as successful as Trump, but it's not obvious to me that it's going to fail without him.
Well, it's not, no, that's fair. It's not obvious that it's going to fail. What I think is an important point to stress, though, is a lot depends on how the next approximately 3 years goes, because it seems to me very plausible that some of these Trump policies, be it tariffs, be it the ultra hard line on immigration, be it what I consider an erosion of basic democratic pluralism, I think a lot of those could backfire. And so regardless of whether J.D. Vance is a talented political figure or not, or whether it's some other nominee or not, it could just be the case that people want a new direction again. One of the more interesting points that Charlamagne Tha God talked about in that interview was the idea that Trump promised change on day one. Perhaps change is never achievable on day one, but it still leaves people disappointed if they don't feel that their own lives have been if not transformed, at least changed for the better pretty quickly.
We might just get to a place where we rotate which party runs the White House every 4 years because news coverage is so relentlessly negative. Right. And it's always like, things were better before. This administration is doing bad. Let's go back the other way. Incumbency used to be an advantage. Not that J.D. Vance would be an incumbent, but I think incumbency of party affiliation might be a negative in our world because it's just everything is so is framed so negatively.
Right, and
even
people are
when
so
things fine.
dissatisfied. Yeah.
People are dissatisfied, and they're reminded of why they're dissatisfied all the time.
Exactly.
Next up, Tucker Carlson and Laura Loomer are feuding. It's boiling over. We'll fill you in next.